I'm super excited to be doing another video that was recommended by you guys down in the comments. Today I am going to be ranking all of the clarinet solos. First of all, I just want to say thank you so much to everybody who has subscribed and everybody who watches these videos and likes them, and especially to the people who have commented below and left recommendations. It's so much fun making these videos that have been recommended by you guys, so keep them coming, and I'll try to make the best videos of them that I can. Now let's talk about some of the best clarinet solo repertoire that's out there. So for this ranking, I did a tier list going from S tier being the absolute top, but then the bottom one is actually only B, because I only want to talk about like the good solos. There's tons and tons and tons of solo clarinet music out there, and quite a bit of it isn't great, but I don't see any point in talking about that. And also I don't really know what the not so great pieces are because I've mostly worked on playing the good pieces. So we're gonna have the bottom of our tier be the B tier, and then we're gonna go up from there. These lower few tiers I'm gonna go through pretty quickly. There's a lot of pieces in there, but they're all really quite interchangeable, I think. It was really hard to get the distinction between these tiers, especially like the B and A minus range, because they're all, again, all of these pieces are good pieces. So really pretty much all of them up until like the A plus tier are pretty interchangeable. So let's go ahead and get started. So starting off in our B tier, we have the Suitor Capriccio, which is an unaccompanied piece on A clarinet that's just super delightful, has this little returning melody. It's really a lot of fun. It was actually the background music of me playing it in my attempt at the Daikon Radish clarinet video, so check that out if you haven't seen it and you can hear a snippet of that. Next up is Kovács homages to a bunch of different composers. This is a really great book. It sort of borders between solo pieces and etudes. It's like very, very advanced etudes, and they're often performed as solo pieces. And it's these homages to a lot of different really great composers, from Bach to Weber, and it's just a really good book of different ways to study the different styles. So I really enjoy that book a lot, and it's a really great multiple pieces. Steve Reich's New York Counterpoint is a really awesome unaccompanied sort of piece. It's for clarinet and then tape clarinet choir. So typically if you really want to do it right, the clarinetist will record all these different parts and then play a live part along with these recordings, and it's really awesome. This Finzi is the Finzi Concerto. He also did some bagatelles, which are also great, and this is just another more contemporary, really nice concerto for the clarinet. Cool, and at the top of our B tier, which I think could also very easily be in the A minus tier, is the Schumann fantasy pieces, which is really quite standard and quite popular, really beautiful little set of pieces by Schumann. Moving on to our A minus tier, we have the Saint-Saëns Sonata, which is similar to the Schumann fantasy pieces a little bit. Just very nice, lush clarinet and piano piece that's very beautiful. Right next to that is the Messager Solo de Concours. This piece is also could be sort of grouped in with the Saint-Saëns and the Schumann. It's French and comes from the Paris Conservatoire, and that tradition would have students play these pieces as sort of final exams or like juries to show their proficiency. So it's very technical but also quite accessible. It's a really good advanced high school piece or beginning college piece that's really a lot of fun to play. Now moving along, we have our first real chamber piece with something besides just piano, and that's Bartok's Contrasts, which was commissioned by Benny Goodman and features clarinet, violin, and piano. It's a really energetic piece and has all kinds of like crazy rhythms. It's much more modern and is a lot of fun to play and a really good challenge to collaborate between the three. And to top off our A minus tier, we have Bernstein's Clarinet Sonata. This was one of the very first pieces that Bernstein wrote. Bernstein is such a famous and popular musician as a conductor and also as a composer. Of course, if you don't know, he wrote West Side Story. That's probably his most famous composition, but he also has many other compositions that are quite popular. And this sonata for clarinet is a really fun piece that's starting to get into the real Bernstein style that we're used to hearing. To start off the A tier, we have the Poulenc Sonata. This is another French sonata for clarinet and piano. This one I put in the A tier because I think it's a little more sophisticated. It has more varying styles, some more complicated rhythms, some tricky intervals to work out, and it's really a ton of fun to play. And it has a special place in my heart because it's what I played for my undergraduate clarinet auditions for school. Now here at the middle of the A tier is where we start to get into the really big, major famous clarinet pieces. Starting off with the Corigliano Clarinet Concerto. This piece is absolutely insane. If you haven't heard it, I strongly recommend checking it out. The technical prowess needed to play this is astronomical. It's super fast and a really different sounding piece, but it's a really fun contemporary piece that's gaining a lot of popularity as clarinetists get better and better. And at the top of the A tier, we have actually several pieces sort of grouped into one, and this is all the like very best of the chamber music. So what I'm including here is the Mozart Clarinet Quintet, the Weber Clarinet Quintet, the Brahms Clarinet Quintet, and also the Brahms Trio. And actually on this CD that I found for this picture, it also has the Schubert Octet in addition to those three pieces. And I think that the Schubert Octet can probably belong up there too. These are like the absolute best chamber works for clarinet. Extremely popular, just about all of them, and take absolutely like the highest level of musicianship to play really beautifully and really at a high level with a string quartet for the three quintets and also just the other different chamber music settings. This is sort of the cream of the crop, absolutely top tier for the chamber music of clarinet. And now we're on to the A+ tier. From here on, these are like the absolute most standard pieces. Everybody who's a professional clarinetist will play these at some point in their life, most certainly. And these are the absolute best pieces that are super popular and even asked on auditions a lot. So first up, we have Stravinsky's Three Pieces. So this is an unaccompanied piece written by Stravinsky that has three movements. The first movement is really slow and really relaxed, but the second and third movement are just crazy fast, really technically difficult, and both really energetic and different character pieces. The Stravinsky Three Pieces are a great standard of the unaccompanied clarinet repertoire. Up next, we have another little bit of a grouping of pieces, and it's all of the pieces by Weber for solo clarinet and orchestra. So that involves his two concertos and the concertino. Actually ranking these, I would probably have a bit of a controversial opinion on what order I would put the three of these in. I would go Weber 2's the lowest, Weber 1's the next, and then the concertino is actually the best. Go ahead and fight me in the comments about that. The second concerto by Weber is often the most popular and what people like the most, but it's really just super flashy technical stuff, and I think the first concerto actually has more musicality to it, but I think concertino is like the perfect balance of both and also has even more musicality because it's contrasting so fast, and it's really nice and short and has like all of the beauty and themes and all the technique. It's sort of like Weber but concentrated down and even better. Next up, I put the Nielsen Clarinet Concerto. This is really becoming quite standard. It was written in the 1920s, so it's not super contemporary, but it still has a very modern feel to it and is very technically demanding. This is asked on auditions every now and then. And it's a really great challenge for performers and just has a great story. It was written for Age Oxenvad, who was a clarinetist that Nielsen knew, and he was kind of crazy, had quite a bit of a temper. Some people think he may have been bipolar, and this piece really embodies that with all kinds of extremes and feelings and emotions, and it's a really fun piece to try to like dive into the character and really get that character to come across while like just going crazy with all of the technique. And at the top of the A+ tier, again, probably this piece and the Nielsen could really be bumped up to the S tier potentially, but I left them in the A+ tier, and this last one is the Copeland Clarinet Concerto. Copeland was commissioned by Benny Goodman to write this piece, and Benny Goodman did the premiere of it, and it's just a really wonderful piece that has this absolutely serene, beautiful beginning, a really awesome, powerful cadenza that gets quite jazzy as a sort of a tribute to Benny Goodman's jazz side. And also the second half of the concerto has a lot of jazz in it too. It's a really great, really American piece written for an American clarinetist by an American composer. And again, another super, super standard that everybody plays and gets asked on auditions too sometimes. Now we're moving on to the S tier. I think the three pieces that I decided to put up here, there's really no questioning that these are absolute top pieces of the clarinet repertoire. Really everything that we've done so far is probably in like the top 10% best of the repertoire, I would say, but these three pieces are absolutely undoubtedly at the top. So starting off in the S tier, we have the two Brahms Sonatas. This was written towards the end of Brahms's life. There's a really nice story that people say that Brahms wrote these for his friend Richard Mühlfeld, and he heard Mühlfeld play in the orchestra and was just so inspired by his beautiful clarinet playing that he actually came out of retirement just to write these pieces for him. It turns out that's not really true at all. Brahms really didn't have any intention of retiring at all when he met Mühlfeld and when he heard him play, and he just wrote these pieces for him because he liked them, liked his playing, and wanted to write them. There is actually also some potential that he didn't even intend them as clarinet pieces to start with. Oftentimes these get played on viola as well, and there's actually a letter by Mühlfeld to a fellow violist that was mutual friends with him and Brahms, saying something to the effect of like, oh, Brahms was writing these viola pieces, and it's too bad you're not here to play them, but I've been playing through them and it's been really nice. So I think it's pretty likely that Brahms actually intended them as viola pieces, but then when he heard Mühlfeld playing them, he decided to transition them to clarinet pieces. And still today, both clarinetists and violists really respect them as great pieces in both of the repertoire. The sonatas by Brahms are absolutely the top pieces. Everybody plays at least one of them at some point in their undergrad, probably. And again, they're asked on auditions sometimes, and just super like gold standard of clarinet and piano pieces. If there was one piece for clarinet and piano that could top the Brahms, maybe, it would be the Debussy Premier Rhapsody. The Debussy actually comes from the same Paris Conservatory tradition as the Messager Solo de Concours, but Debussy totally took it to an absolute next level, and made this piece that is technically demanding, just like the Messager and just like all of these pieces from this tradition, but it has so much more musicality to it and delicacy to it. To be able to play Debussy, it sounds just like the most beautiful, effortless piece, but is so challenging to play. And again, that's why it's asked on auditions a lot. And it's just so beautiful with the piano part. It's also arranged by Debussy himself for clarinet and orchestra, but personally I just like the piano versions so much better. You can fight me in the comments about that too if you want. But yeah, again, this is another absolute standard piece, is asked on auditions quite a bit, and really demonstrates all the virtuosity of the clarinet, from its ultra soft, beautiful legato playing to the crazy technical and really energetic, and even some staccato and articulation extremes. It's a really great piece and really challenging. And our final piece, it's hard to argue that this is not absolutely top tier, the best clarinet piece ever. When I was making this ranking, I toyed with the idea of not putting this piece at the top, because there's other pieces that are maybe more fun to play. There's definitely other pieces that are more technically challenging. But this piece is asked on literally every audition since the beginning of ever. It's just absolutely crazy to not have this piece at the top, and that's of course the Mozart Clarinet Concerto. This was one of the first big pieces written for the clarinet. Mozart sort of put the clarinet on the map. He started using it in orchestra all the time. This concerto really just boosted the popularity of the clarinet and allowed for so much of the great music that came after it, including the pieces by Weber, which then inspired Brahms, and it just goes on from there for why these pieces are, or why the Mozart is so extremely important to the clarinet's history. And again, it's asked on like literally every audition. And if you listen to the classical radio, I'm sure you hear the second movement a lot during their like peaceful, quiet classical music time. It's just extremely popular. It gets performed hundreds of times a year by hundreds of performers all around the world, like professionally with orchestras. And there's probably thousands of college students, semi-professionals, amateurs, high school students, just everybody's working on the Mozart Concerto all the time. It's a really beautiful masterpiece by Mozart. It's inspired and goes really along with his operatic style, so it has all the operatic beauty and drama of a good solo piece, and there's just no way that you could pick any other piece to be the absolute top of the clarinet repertoire. So that's my ranking of the clarinet repertoire. I think I included quite a good range of pieces, and again, all of the pieces, even down to the bottom of the B tier, are great pieces. But I want to hear if there's any that I missed. Go ahead and leave a comment if you think I missed any. If you think anything about the order is bad and you think something should be rearranged, I would love to hear your thoughts. This, of course, was my opinion. If you say anything besides Mozart should be the top, then maybe you're a little crazy, but I'm sure a lot of other ones can be rearranged, and I'm sure there's pieces that I didn't include that are, of course, great pieces as well. So go ahead and leave a comment if you want to fight me about anything that I said. Also, go ahead and leave a comment if you have any recommendations or any videos that you want to see me do. Similar to this, different from this. I'm just always love making these videos based off of your recommendations, and it's so much fun to see the different things that you guys want to hear me talk about. So leave a comment, and I look forward to reading those. Thanks so much for watching this video. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't, and I will see you in another video.